Hello, welcome back to Nothing and Everything, a podcast that changes intros every week. I'm Russell,
I'm Ben.
I'm Ariana.
and this is the crew. This is us. This is what we do here, guys. Thank you for the input. Can you guys also speak louder? Our audio is going to be real horseshit this week.
No problem. I will speak as loudly as I can without waking the neighborhood.
Got it.
Same here.
Okay, I think it sounds good. Maybe, hopefully. If not, I'm sorry for everyone listening. How was your guys' week?
No complaints.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I got really badly sunburned, but besides that, I'm good.
Yeah, how was your whole your Lala experience?
To keep it family friendly, it was good. It was
Well,
very good in the most family friendly way possible. It was fantastic. No, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed myself thoroughly, and yeah, I'm really sad that you couldn't come, Ben, but there is always next year, and we will go hard. Ariana, you are always invited. You should come, or we should go to Governor's Ball.
Yes, that is, I think, beginning of August. But it's
Yeah,
only 2 days, not 4.
yeah. And then
And it's got rained out, so.
and the Strokes are playing New Year's Eve.
Yes.
Yes.
How were the Strokes? Did they put on a good show for you?
So, if you're both fairly big Strokes fans, right?
Yes.
Their second song
Not really. I mean, I'm indifferent towards them. I have not listened to them enough to really
Oh.
form an opinion.
Oh, okay. Their second song they played was "You Only Live Once," which might be their biggest song, which was really weird that was their second song, and they closed with "Reptilia." And they're like their last song they played without their encore was "Someday," and I mean it was cool, but Julian was very clearly either just being a goofball, drunk, or really high, because he like went on this whole weird rant where he was like, I know you guys like us being here, but maybe there should be a little bit less ass kissing. But that being said, what's up Lollapalooza? Because like people are just wooing, and he was just kind of going off. He's like, I heard the Windy City is called the Windy City for political reasons. He's like, you know what? Thinking about that may have been a little rude to say out loud. So how are you all? He was just being kind of a goofball.
What was your favorite act that you watched there? If it wasn't the Strokes, and if it was like your next favorite.
The Strokes were good just because I'm a big fan. Janelle Monáe was incredible.
I was looking forward to seeing her.
Yeah, she was really good. 21 Savage was a lot of fun. Lil Wayne was a lot of fun as a show, but I think the best performance, Childish Gambino was good, but it was just kind of like, I don't want to say long-winded, but a little long-winded, but I think the best overall performance was 21 Pilots. They put on an incredibly good show. They have a lot of work they put in. They have a car that explodes. It was a little bit like going to see like the Blue Man Group, where it's a lot more of like this experience as well as just seeing people play music. It was more interactive-y, I guess. That was cool. I saw Slash play, which was cool. Perry's, which is all EDM, like just dubstep trap. It's just a mosh pit of nonsense, but it's fun. But it's essentially watching someone play music off their computer. But it was a good time. I got really badly sunburned, as you guys can tell. My hair's all bleached out and my face is red. So
It's not really apparent like through our computer screens, at least not for me.
yeah. But no, it was a good time. I'm really tired now. But yeah. Did you guys do anything especially fun?
Meh. No, I didn't really.
No, I just went shopping. That's it.
Good shopping or bad shopping? Because there's a difference.
Shopping where I didn't get half of what I wanted, but because none of the stores had what I wanted.
What were you looking for?
I was just looking for shorts, but none of the stores had the style of shorts that I normally wear.
Are they like basketball shorts or are they like jean
Like
shorts?
jean shorts.
Ooh. What about like
And like I don't wear the shorts with the little cuffs at the bottom because if you put them in the wash and you don't iron them right away,
Yeah.
ruin the whole thing. So I just save myself the hassle and just don't buy those.
Oh, okay. I don't really wear a lot of very short denim shorts. I don't know if you guys can tell, but it's not really my style. But yeah, what's the store that like a lot of people go to? Charlotte Rouge? Is that the store? Is that a girl's store?
Charlotte Rouge?
It is, but I think they went out of business.
Oh, okay, never mind.
That's like my go-to. I don't have an outfit, and I have somewhere to go at 10 o'clock, and I would stroll up there at 8 o'clock and find an outfit.
What about like Forever 21 or Express? Because that's where I get all my clothes.
Forever 21 gives me so much anxiety because nothing is in like the same area.
Yes.
So I don't like shopping there in person. I'll go online. But I did do Express, but they had all like work shorts out.
Yeah, Express is more professionally stuff.
Yeah, and I can't wear work shorts to work, so.
Exactly, yeah. Ben, did you go shopping this weekend?
No, I'm trying to think. Really, all I did was dad stuff, and I did break into my house last night because a buddy of mine that came home with me, I did get home late. He came back with me and locked us out of my house. So
Good.
I had to knock out a window pane from my garage just to get in. So that was fun.
You know what? We've all done that before. I think if you haven't broken into your own house, you haven't lived. I've broken into my own house on a ladder through a kitchen window because like my house is up higher. Like there's steps to get in my front and back door. And our back door windows are like 5 feet up or 6 feet up. So like you can't just get in. You'd have to get up on a ladder to do it. And me as like a 9-year-old had to do that. And my parents yelled at me a lot. I just remember like, Russell, you broke into our house. You could have just done this. I'm like, I'm 9. This is what my brain went to.
I mean, I've never broken into my house, but I did break into my friend's house, but they were there. Like they just locked themselves out and I was the only one small enough to fit through the window where they kept the air conditioner.
Yeah.
So I like jumped through the window and opened the door from the other side. So I technically broke in, but they were there, so it doesn't count.
What you guys just heard is Ariana admitting to a crime. We got him.
To a crime that they said I could do because I was the only one that could fit in.
So you're the grease man in the heist. So that's what we're doing. I just sent you guys a picture of a pair of shoes that I was looking at because they're kind of cool. And this is bad radio, but I wanted to show you guys in our group chat because we're friends outside of the podcast, maybe. But I'm glad that you
Did you
got...
send the photo? Because I
didn't get the photo.
Checking out these professional sneakers text and no photo.
Oh, I forgot to send the photo. Sorry, guys. Don't worry about it. It's not like I'm tired. But I have eaten. I ate dinner. I'm getting better.
You ate dinner last week, too, and it was still a little rough.
Oh, yeah. That doesn't help my mental capacity very much. But you guys want to know about some cool movie news?
Let's hear it.
Okay. So the first thing in movie news, apparently... so Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which we talked about last week, is getting universally incredibly good ratings. That's awesome. The first trailer for the movie Lighthouse, which is an A24 movie starring Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, has come out. Did you guys watch that?
Yes.
I watched half of it.
From the half that you saw, did it look good in your mind?
Yes, but I don't like to base films off that because the trailer could look real good and then the film is just real bad.
Yeah, I understand. But it's intriguing. I don't know. It seems kind of like an Oscar film sort of thing, if you know what I mean.
I liked the filmmaker's first movie, The Witch, which was a way different like horror movie than apparently what everyone in my theater thought it was going to be, because as we all walked out, there was a large group of teenagers that were like, this is a bullshit movie. Like, this wasn't scary. But I liked that movie, so I'm looking forward to his next one. Yeah,
I am too. I think it'll be cool. I liked The Witch a lot. I really did. I genuinely liked it. Black Panther 2, the villain's probably going to be Namor, which is like evil Aquaman. But I'm glad we're talking about superhero news this week because of our main topic. And we have a lot of superhero news, which definitely goes along with our main topic for this week. But do you guys give any shred of a shit about that?
I mean, sure, but I mean, is it anything that's new or like kind of breaking news, or is it just kind of like, hey, here's a thing that may develop into something bigger along the line?
Yeah, it's whatever. It's a thing. Apparently
For the viewers, Russell's hair is like very disheveled, and it is going along with his personality tonight.
Oh yeah,
like, I don't give a shit about anything. Right
yeah.
now.
My hair matches my attitude right now. It is just, it's doing its own thing. Apparently the new Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie is getting crazy high reviews. People are losing their fucking minds.
I haven't seen. I'll have to look up the reviews for this.
Like, it's getting, like, standing ovations at TIFF. It's getting, like, actual, like, legitimate other critics and other people saying, like, it is mind-blowingly good. It's, like, one of those really good psychological performances. It just happens to be the Joker kind of thing.
It said he might be nominated for an Oscar for this role.
Wow. And coming from Todd Phillips, the Hangover guy.
Yeah.
He's grown a little bit, I think, since Old School and the Hangover.
I think he has. I mean, it's proof that all of us, as mature and immature as we can be, we can grow. It's hope for me, guys. This is hope for me.
I recently watched The Hangover just cause, and I was watching it, and I was like, this could not be made today.
Oh, no. Absolutely not.
Oh, 100. It is very of its time.
And it's it's a movie of its time, but that time was only like 10 years ago. That's the crazy thing. Like how much we evolve, like in our what we find acceptable socially and all that. Yeah.
What do you think would happen if The Hangover came out like next month?
Just the exact same way it came.
Yeah, like the same movie if it just got released now.
I think people would have some problem with a lot of the not language, but like there's some homophobic like kind of language in there. Kind of the main. I think people would just have some problems with kind of how Todd Phillips used to do things, like with Old School and The Hangover, and especially kind of like the date rape drug that's used as kind of like a plot device. And so I think people would have a problem with that, but it's kind of hard telling. Sometimes you can see that as just no one here is advocating for anybody to use that kind of thing, but I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely. And like the idea of blacking out and having horrible things happen to you being a comedic device, especially in the age of getting canceled, which would not fly today. Just like thinking about that movie and a lot of like, even the thing with Zach Galifianakis' character, a lot of the stuff that happens involving him and revolving around him would not fly.
No.
But I remember seeing that movie in theaters, and yeah. You know what movie I kind of wish they would make another one of, but will never happen? Jackass.
I feel like it would get the same thing as Jackass. Like, you would have people who are insanely, like, love it, and then other people who think it's the stupidest thing in the world.
Yeah.
I love that shit.
I do too.
That pulled my heartstrings seeing that kind of thing.
Jackass is incredible. And people are like, it's like all this other stuff. It's like, yeah, it's one of those like, live and let live. Come on, relax.
The thing that works so well about Jackass is pretty much every like cast member or person on there was a likable person. Like, yeah, they all had their like shittiness to them. Like, especially I never really cared too much for Bam Margera, but he was still charming in a way to where I enjoyed seeing him beat the shit out of himself.
Yeah, like you never wanted any of them to hurt themselves too bad.
Yeah, and like that's why they can only make it work with Johnny Knoxville, Pontius, Steve-O, all those guys, because like you like them.
Yeah,
if you get some random asshole off the street and I don't care about him, like he's just beating himself up, it doesn't work.
Yeah, if you get like one of the like Logan Paul or his brother, it's just like I want to see that bull kill him. Like it's not like I want to see him get out of it with maybe a broken leg. I want to see carnage if it's one of those people who you genuinely don't like. Because like there's a lot of those videos on YouTube where you're almost rooting for them to fail, but in Jackass you're rooting for them to get hurt but not to fail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
you want them to get up and laugh it off.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the only character I find completely insufferable in Jackass is Danger Aaron. And when when he gets his tooth pulled out by the Lamborghini and stuff, it's like you still feel so bad for him, but you're just laughing. And like those kind of things, like you couldn't get away with that right now, especially the whole bit with the terrorist thing in the back of the taxi. You could not get away with that now, but just watching that, you're like, oh, this is kind of quaint and funny. But yeah, in our world of like all the horrible stuff that happens, watching Jackass, you're like, oh, I remember this. Like, I remember going to the movies and seeing these things, but yeah. On a completely separate note, I don't know how we got to that. Andy Serkis is directing the new Venom movie, Venom 2. The Venoming. That's not what it's called. But.
I probably won't see that one either.
Yeah, same.
And they're making. Speak of Andy Serkis, they're making a sequel of Planet of the Apes. They're doing a sequel.
Oh, okay.
The other two in the trilogy, like the newer trilogy, I enjoyed the first one.
I did too.
Rise of the Apes, whichever one it was called.
It was like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and War of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, whichever one had Franco in it.
Yeah, that one was really good and legitimately like kind of heartbreaking.
That was the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still haven't seen the other two, which I heard were like really good.
Yeah, they're all good in their own way. They're all very different, but really good. But they're kind of all like they are sequels to each other, but they're all very different kinds of movies.
Okay.
And then yesterday was the 20-year anniversary of the Iron Giant, and that's a thing.
Yes.
Which is weird because I remember seeing that movie.
Such an underrated movie. Like, people forget about it.
That movie made me cry.
Yeah.
That movie will bring me to tears today. But yeah, that's pretty much the big movie news. I'm sure there's some huge thing that I'm totally forgetting about. Apparently Hobbs and Shaw doesn't suck, which surprises me because I thought that movie was going to be complete horseshit, but apparently it doesn't completely suck.
Another movie news is Disney came out with the pricing for their Disney Plus.
Oh, what is it?
$12.99.
For Disney, man, I saw this on your Facebook feed. That's where I found the news. Yeah, it's for Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, and Hulu. Like basic commercial, like all three put together.
Huh. That's very tempting.
Yes. Now I can stop mooching off my brother for ESPN Plus and just buy it myself.
Yeah, I had like a password to ESPN Plus and all of that stuff through a friend from Big Ten Network, but I think they changed their password just because I can't get it anymore, so I'm really sad. So maybe I'll have to start shelling out some money.
I'll give you mine off air because I use it. I watch a lot of boxing through ESPN Plus.
Oh, very cool.
I get good value out of it.
Also, did you guys know ESPN 8 the Ocho is a real thing?
Yes.
Today.
I think.
Yeah, I figured that was out because they had a fucking cornhole tournament, and I was like, dude, is this fucking real? Like, this is literally life imitating, like, art.
Yeah, I think they started the night off with dodgeball, and I think they're ending it with dodgeball.
That's so fucking funny. I love that so much. As a gigantic fan of dodgeball, as, like, that being one of my top 5 favorite comedies of all time, I think it's so funny that fucking ESPN 8 the Ocho is a real thing. If it's almost a sport, we got it. So, Cotton and Wayne McKnight, my guys. So, guys, what is our topic for this week? I'm setting you up for a slam dunk here. Come on.
The Boys.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
What did you guys think? Because we're just going to go straight into spoilers for The Boys, because I've been reading the comics since I watched this. Because I watched it like 2 weeks ago, because we talked about it on last week's show. I started reading the comic, and we're going to talk about both. What'd you guys think?
Go for it.
I liked it. I think, like I said yesterday, I thought IMDb's description of it didn't do it justice. Because there's so much more that IMDb's page didn't say about the show that I was completely shocked about while watching it.
Yeah, I agree. Ben, what'd you think?
I really liked it. I went in thinking it was just going to be like goofy, naughty superheroes, kind of more lighthearted than anything, and was floored to find out that I was completely wrong, and it is more like there are very few good superheroes in this world. They're all horrible, horrible people. But it's also, it's a very good show. It's funny. It's pretty graphic with its violence. But yeah, I mean, it's a really good show. It caught me off guard. I'm kind of glad that I went in, like, one, blind with it, and two, like, kind of misinforming myself about what it was going to be. Because it made it that much more surprising.
Yeah. My next question is, if I didn't push both of you guys to watch this, partially for the show and partially for your own entertainment, would you have watched this show?
Yeah, I did plan on watching it, just because I've been looking for, new stuff to watch over my next couple weeks when I don't have school, and The Boys was on my radar.
Okay. Ariana, how about you?
Yes, my dad and my brother both recommended it. Mm-hmm. So normally, whatever shows they recommend are normally good that I like. So.
Yeah, and that'll happen. But I'm glad. I actually figured out about this show because I saw a trailer for it when I went to go see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I saw that Carl Urban is in it, or was in it, and Jack Quaid, who's Dennis Quaid's son. And I'm like, oh, both of them are quite good. And I was under the same impression Ben was, because I knew it was a comic book, because one of my very good friends, Kyle, is a huge comic book fan. And he talked about it once, I think. And I didn't know anything about it. And I saw the trailer. I'm like, oh, this is probably going to be a zany thing, kind of like a goofier version of Watchmen. I was wrong. It makes Watchmen look like a comedy. And yeah, I think, I don't know. It's a big thing to say, but out of all the digital streaming platform TV shows, I think this is my favorite one.
It's up there for me.
Yeah, same.
As much as I do love Stranger Things and Orange is the New Black, and I used to love House of Cards before Frank Underwood turned into a real bad guy in real life, and like Master of None, stuff like that, this, I think, is the gold standard for me now. Also, there's Good Omens or Good Omens. I recently been watching. It is very Douglas Adams, and if you like Douglas Adams, it is very good.
I've seen the first 3 or 4 episodes of that, and I really like it. I need to finish it.
We should do that on an episode like next week or something. But yeah, so let's get into spoilers off the bat of we all like the show and do recommend it. I will say this show is not for everyone. If you are not into watching something potentially quite depressing, do not watch this. If you love Marvel movies and you don't want to admit that there's anything wrong with Marvel movies and the current state we're in with media and everything else, do not watch this show, because this will bum the fuck out of you.
I'll counter that by saying maybe you should watch this show if you're happy with the current state of things. Let your let it speak to your mind a little bit so that you can kind of open your horizons, or broaden your horizons rather, and don't just rely on Marvel to tell you how the superhero genre should be. And certainly don't let the current state of DC do that. But I think it's got some things to say about quite a few different aspects of society, and I think they're mostly good things to say. So I wouldn't not recommend people watch it. I would say, go in with an open mind, and you're probably going to be pissed off about something, because there's a few things in there that are definitely meant to ruffle feathers.
Oh, 100%. Ariana, what do you think?
The only thing I'll say is, if you don't like complete gore, if you can't handle a Game of Thrones cutting of the direwolves, you will not be able to handle this.
Yeah, this borders on Saw level gory in a few sequences. There's a sequence in a basement where a certain character gets freed from a cage, that is incredibly gory, and a certain scene with a baby with laser eyes that is incredibly gory. But yeah, I think, yeah, if you're a bit squeamish, maybe not the show for you, and someone does get blown up and, like, splattered, which is a pretty funny sequence, but also not for the faint of heart.
Yes.
So going in and finishing the series, we'll talk about why later, but who is your favorite character at the end of season 1, and who is your least favorite character? And that doesn't have to be the character you relate to the most, but who's the character you think is, like, your favorite by most interesting or most well-rounded, any of it. So your favorite character can be a bad guy.
I like a lot of the characters on this show, even the bad ones that, like, that they're fun to not like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like Homelander, I really do like his character.
Mm-hmm.
And then how the actor in this, how he's portrayed, it's really like for me, it's like a mix between like Michael Fassbender and Chris Pine.
Yeah.
Like a lot of Chris Pine energy from him.
Definitely.
But I like how he ended up kind of going from being the one that's being played by the business by Vought. Mm-hmm. And in the end, he's kind of he has the upper hand. So yes. I think he's a bad dude throughout the series, but he's going to slowly become worse, I think. Or maybe not slowly, but like quickly become worse.
Oh, yeah. Ariane, how about you?
I like Frenchie.
You like Frenchie the most?
Yeah. He just, like, I don't really know why. I mean, it probably is the accent, but, like, the way that he just thinks about how to go about with all the, when he helped Huey and Butcher take in the guy, like, all the stuff that he was, like, trying to make, I thought that was very interesting, that he would be the one to do that. Like, it wouldn't be, like, Butcher doing it.
Yeah. Okay.
And how he relates to the girl. I thought that was a nice little adding of his character development. Yeah,
I really do like that him and Kimiko, their relationship is super cool. I think that's a really good development thing. And then for you guys, who's your least favorite character? And then I'll answer mine.
I don't know if I have... I have to think about that for a second. For someone I really just dislike. Well, from just certain acts, I really don't like the Deep.
Okay.
The things that he does in it. But I mean, like, there's not a whole lot of good people in this show.
Yeah. I guess maybe A-Train.
Okay. Yeah, I think those are both really good answers. I'll answer my least favorite one. My least favorite one is Queen Maeve. She's my least favorite character, yeah. Partially because she's such a bystander, and I think she's one of the only characters that could stand up to Homelander, both mentally and physically. And I think that's shown at the beginning of the show in the opening sequence with the bus, or like the car that's being robbed, or the armored truck. And emotionally because of their previous relationships and Homelander's weird dependency on certain things that we'll get into, and his fetishization of women and mother figures, and we'll get into that. I think Queen Maeve has a lot of power that she doesn't use, and she is also really negative and shitty towards Starlight, which I'm like, you could be a good person, but you're just kind of a piece of shit. Like, and you know what is right. Like, you do know, and you're just choosing to stand by. And, I mean, like, it's a really complex character that is interesting, but it's just one of those characters on screen. I'm like, you're so close to doing the right thing.
I think she's been beaten down by, mentally by the kind of the bureaucracy of Vought and how that corporation runs, and how, like, she even mentions, like, she was, like, Starlight once before, kind of like the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, like, thinking I'm gonna be a good superhero and like save lives, and this is the product and the result of being in this corporation for too long. So I think that's what makes her just the jaded, shitty person that she was, and like kind of near the first or middle part of the season. Yeah,
it's like one of those, you die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain, is kind of the moral of this show. Or the moral of being in Vought, which is this corporation, which we'll get into. And then I think My favorite character, I think the most intriguing character off the bat, we all would, not all, but most people would think is Billy Butcher. But I like his character, but I think the best character and the most universally liked character is Frenchie. I think he is my favorite, just because he starts off as kind of this arms-dealing piece of shit, and then by the end you're like, oh my god, this guy is like a legitimate human who's been just destroyed, and he now has found a reason to be a good guy again, for the right reasons, not because Billy or Mother's Milk brought him into the situation.
And he's consistent with his kind of humanity.
Yes.
Throughout this season, and I was impressed by that, because you would think like after the first time he kind of gets put in his place by Kimiko, but he still like goes back to her and it's like, hey, we can still work this out, like we can get you home. Like he keeps with that human side of himself, and that is what's really endearing about that character.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then for everyone listening who has no idea what we're talking about, I guess the shortest plot of The Boys is there's a corporation in the United States that is like, how do I put this? It's a corporation that hires superheroes to make the Avengers. However, they're actors, but they all have superpowers. It's superpowered actors, essentially, that star in their own movies, and it's made for merchandising and social media awareness, purely for profit, but not to do the right thing. And this is the world we live in, and it's all about the likes. It's all about public perception. It's about how much exposure can you get, and it quickly turns into something much more sinister, which is the idea of putting superhumans in the military to give yourself a upper hand. But we can see that this backfires throughout the season, and I think that plot line, if you didn't know that going in, and knowing that from the comics as well, makes this it makes it from an intriguing show to a very complicated show where there isn't a right answer anymore.
Yeah, it's a really good parallel for like a nuclear arms race.
Yeah.
Where you really you use someone like Homelander, who is, he's clearly like a riff off of Superman, who in that DC universe he's a god, but if you put him in the sense of a military personnel, he is a super weapon.
Yeah,
like he could go in there and wipe out an entire country by himself. So really, he is a weapon of mass destruction. And so when you try and introduce superheroes into a military and privatize it through like a corporation like Vought, then you start to get into that complicated area where it's like, no, we can't really do this, because the only place it could lead to is just catastrophic human loss.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that this was a comic. Or became a show. So I just equated Homelander as Superman or Captain America, Queen Maeve as Wonder Woman, A-Train as Flash. I thought they're essentially, in the beginning, my first thought was, they're just making fun of superheroes now.
And I think when the book was written, the comic was written, is what they were doing. But you quickly realize that all of these kind of analogs for superheroes we know are fucking monsters. And there's a line from Watchmen the book and Watchmen the movie that parallels this. It's where Dr. Manhattan is being tested on with the government, where he's like, they're turning me into something gaudy, they're turning me into a weapon. And in Watchmen, that doesn't happen, because Dr. Manhattan's kind of a weird nihilistic creature at this point, where he's like, I don't care, none of this matters, and fucks off to Mars. But Homelander is kind of greedy and selfish, and that's what could happen. Where I know he's supposed to be an analog for Superman or Captain America, but I see him as a greedy version of Dr. Manhattan, where he is essentially limitless power. But he's also limitless power that was raised in a laboratory, kind of like Eleven in Stranger Things, but then has turned into an adult and is weird and vengeful and crazy. Would you guys like? So there's a plot line that they didn't do in this, that they did in the comics, and this is a spoiler for the comics. and not for the show because I don't think they're doing this, but Homelander was the first superhero that Vought created because Vought created all the superheroes with this V serum, this compound V. And that's why he's the strongest because he is the first one in this lab. And all the other ones are kind of clones off of him. They're like rip-offs of his DNA. And that's how the compound V was like kind of created. And Black Noir, the reason you don't know about him is he is Homelander. He's a clone of Homelander. And all of the evil acts that Homelander does are actually Black Noir. And you don't realize it until later.
So, like, Black Noir gets out of his Black Noir costume, goes in as Homelander and does the evil shit.
Yes.
And
so Homelander is good.
No, he's still crazy. He's like crazy and self-righteous, but he's not the one doing the evil acts. And I don't think they're going to do that for this show because the thing with Billy's child that we'll talk about doesn't happen in the comics. That doesn't happen. So I think they're going to nix that storyline. Or they'll change that and have Black Noir maybe be a clone of Homelander, but do something different with that. I don't know what they're going to do, but that's why a big complaint for people who haven't read the comics who saw the show were like, why didn't we learn anything about Black Noir? That's why.
Okay. I think if they do change it to where he's not like the evil twin or evil clone, whatever you want to call it, I think that's probably going to be for the better.
Yes. I would agree.
Homelander is just more compelling as a complete psycho.
Yes. I genuinely do agree with that because if you just wrote it off, then at the end it's like, oh, it wasn't even him. That would cheapen that character and that like hate and love to hate for this thing that Vought has accidentally created. But yeah, so what did you guys think of the first episode where Huey's girlfriend gets exploded?
I thought they jumped right into it, like right from the get-go. They kind of set the tone for the rest of the show with how she died.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't expecting that, and I wasn't expecting it to be so soon in like the first 10 minutes or so.
Yeah. Did you like that though, or did you like find it? Did you think that they gave enough characterization to Huey to like merit that kind of thing, or do you think they should have built into it a little more?
I would have liked it to be built in a little bit more, but I think that was their intent, to do it real quick to kind of show like he really didn't have a choice. It was kind of just like, all right, she died, he had to do something. He didn't have time to like think about it, which set up like all the like a domino effect with everything else that has happened during the show.
Yeah. Ben, what are you feeling?
It was definitely a surprise when they're just having a normal conversation that, about, oh, are you going to, like, maybe we should move into an apartment together, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, she's just a pile of goop, and he's holding her arms. And yeah, that's like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
And then I'm glad that they stopped, or they paused to have A-Train be there and like, I'm sorry, I gotta go. So right there, it's not like you know exactly who did it. Now how are they going to kind of work around this? And then we're introduced to the Vought Corporation, how they, like, what they're all about, like you explained earlier. And then I really, really liked that it was how they tried to spin, or how the Vought Corporation tried to spin it. It was like his girlfriend was standing in the middle of the road and not just like halfway off the curb.
Yeah.
And so that's when we get to, that's when we really see that, okay, this corporation is in it just to start spinning things. They cannot have their superheroes get a bad reputation or look bad in a public view, because that's, their public view is how they get all of their money.
Yeah. I think watching this show, and then if you go back and watch the Avengers, I think it's really funny because I went back and rewatched part of Avengers Civil War, and you can watch that where they're talking to S.H.I.E.L.D. And if you think about it in the frame of this, you're like, wait, what if you just pull the camera back a little farther and see all of their agents around them telling them what to say? And I think watching this will give you a different frame of reference on all these other shows, because it could show you like the argument for either side, and it can show you how dangerous it is. And like the whole Make-A-Wish Foundation thing with A-Train is so fucked. And the pray away the gay type rally, what is that called? Like festival?
Yeah, I think it's like Church Fest or something.
Right. Just some religious
Yeah, let me see. I'm gonna try and
festival. Yeah.
Oh, Believe Expo.
Yeah.
Believe. I love that also the superhero that they have doing that is also gay. And like that's his like thing where it's like, okay, we get like in your own personal life you may be gay, but for this act that you're doing, because you kind of are signed on with us at Vought, you have to be this character where you're preaching like anti-homosexual rhetoric. And I thought that was really, really interesting. And it definitely was a parallel to things on like the news and on TV, like this character that you're playing, and people just eat that shit up.
I think kind of like a parallel to Disney. Like, you know how like all like the Jonas Brothers are like, we didn't want to make the purity rings a big deal, and then Disney was like, oh, we're gonna make it a big deal.
Yeah, I think.
Or like, oh, Miley Cyrus couldn't say that she was, smoking weed while she was still Hannah Montana.
Yeah. Lighting up doinks on set of Hannah Montana. Cool, right on. But yeah, no, I 100% I agree with that. And I think the show tackles it, but it doesn't do it too ham-fistedly, and it doesn't do it in a really like obnoxious way. And it's not like, look at us, see, we're pointing this out to your face. It does it in the story so well that you watch it, and then after the fact you're like, wait a second, they just said something about this. Like, they literally just made a point. What did you guys think of Starlight as a character?
I like her. I can see the potential for her to, well, that is to say, if Vought kind of continues down this path of, like, using superheroes as just the marketing device instead of actually doing good with them, I can see her becoming darker and more jaded with how things go if she decides to stay with them. It's hard to really tell at this point where that story thread's going to go and how the corporation's going to go, because, I mean, the end of the season did kind of leave many things open. So we'll see, though. But I like her. I like how she's portrayed. I think the actress does a very good job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Another thing I loved about this show was all the people who were in the Seven, so your analog for the Justice League, were kind of unknowns. So it made it wasn't like one of them is like a Henry Cavill and another one is a Michael Fassbender or another one is, I don't know, like a Will Smith or something, like these crazy superstars. It wouldn't be as believable as like, oh, they're just people. And in this world, they're famous. And I think that really worked super well. And I think maybe the biggest actors that I noticed were Carl Urban as Billy Butcher and what's-his-face who plays Gus from Breaking Bad, who's the head as the head of Vought.
That's a small player. What the hell? Esposito, yeah. Giancarlo Esposito. Elizabeth Shue as Stillwell.
Yes, she's pretty big. And then I guess is it Jack Quaid as Dennis Quaid's son, who's been in other stuff.
I did say I remembered him, but I didn't remember his name.
You know who he looks like? He looks like Timothy Olyphant.
I think he kind of looks like a skinnier Rainn Wilson.
He does kind of look like a skinnier Rainn Wilson. But I like that. Oh, Simon Pegg is his dad.
Yes.
When I saw that in the comics, Huey is drawn to look like Simon Pegg. That's what that joke is.
Oh, okay.
The artist who drew Huey drew Simon Pegg as kind of a bit, and that's why they had to cast Simon Pegg as the dad, because Simon Pegg kind of aged out of it. Because I think these comics were written in like 2005 or something.
Okay.
And with the sexual assault thing with the Deep on Starlight's character, the books are a lot more gritty and a lot more sinister than the show is. The show's actually turned down quite a bit from the comics, and a lot of the stuff I don't want to get into on the show. But the bitter taste in your mouth, so to speak, pun intended, that you get from the show you get a lot more from the comics. But I'm glad they didn't take all of it out. They just gave you enough of that disgusting reality to give you the point without beating you over the head with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're saying pretty much the comics are a lot more nihilistic than the show?
Yeah,
Okay.
and also the Seven are a lot dumber in the comics. In the show, they're a lot more intelligent and multidimensional, which makes you like them but also hate them more.
Right. They realize what their purpose is in the corporate world, and they're kind of playing along, but also they're like, this is bullshit.
Yes. In the comic, it's not exactly like that. And the plane sequence, which I think is a big turning point for a lot of people in the show, plays out a lot differently in the comic. It's different in the comic. It's more of mayhem. In the show, it's more like, well, fuck, we fucked up. Let's let all these people die. Basically, in the comic, it plays out a little differently. But I think that sequence is really a huge gut punch to show how truly evil Homelander can be.
Yeah, and I think it shows that Maeve is just completely burnt out, and that she wants to help, but then ultimately Homelander has the final say.
Yeah. And yeah, I think it's interesting. And I think a really funny line from like the first episode is when Billy Butcher, Carl Urban's character, is talking to Frenchie, and he's like, killing supers is interesting because they all like pose a different problem to, like, when you kill them. But they end up sticking C4 up Translucent's ass. I think that would work on most of them. If you stuck C4 up someone's ass and ignited it, it would probably kill most all of them.
Well, we figure out near like mid to end of the season that they are all really human.
Yes.
Just super enhanced.
Yeah, essentially with super steroids as babies that does this to them. And what did you think of that when Huey blew up Translucent? What with that sequence, did you think he was going to do it?
I kind of thought he did. I didn't think it was going to be like as messy as it was because they kept going on that Translucent's skin was like made of like indestructible like diamonds or something.
Yeah.
So I figured it was just going to be like a loud pop, and then he would just like not be invisible and drop dead. I didn't think like it would explode him literally.
Yeah.
I didn't think that he would do it like right there. Like I thought he would have let him, walk away a little bit more. Maybe did it as soon as he heard the door open.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. When that happened, I knew it was coming, and I loved it. I think it was so perfect. And with the little baby next to him, it's like, keep your hands clean. It's just like showing that Huey wants to do the right thing, but it is like the whole, like, the path to hell is paved with good intentions. Like that whole idea. And I really, really like that. What did you guys think of the cliffhanger with Billy Butcher realizing that his wife isn't dead? And that his whole 8 years of a vendetta is kind of all been a charade.
Well, I thought that he was under the impression that his wife was just still missing, that his wife's family assumed that she was just dead.
Mm-hmm. But, like, knowing that she's alive with Homelander's son.
Yeah, that's a little twist. I don't think he thought that she could have had a kid. Mm-hmm. I think in his mind it was just, they slept together, and then he tried to, get rid of her because she wanted to said something.
Yeah.
Has it been confirmed, like, because at one point when he finally kind of confides in Huey about why he is, like, spiteful or, like, bitter towards supers, like, has it been confirmed that she actually was, like, sexually assaulted by him, or was that kind of proven to be like it was a consensual relationship, but he had to bury that?
See, it's kind of left a little ambiguous. I think we're meant to think it was sexual assault, but then with what Homelander's saying, even though he's a twisted monster, like, he might be telling the truth to even get more of a dig. And that's the hard part about that character. And, I mean, regardless of what happened, it's fundamentally wrong. in my mind, I would like to believe it's cheating, or I would like to believe it's sexual assault, but in that, wouldn't there be something where she reaches out to Billy or something? I don't know. Like, the comics approach it differently, so I can't even use any of the comic knowledge to read into it, but I think that one, I would choose to say Homelander did sexually assault her, and then maybe she's been like, Vought has been like, we'll kill you if you say anything. So you got to raise this fucking kid. Like, we'll kill you. We know who your family is. We will kill them.
My whole thing was when they were in the woman's house, and he was, talking on, he went to go whisper in her ear about how, like, the story was different from the doctor.
Yeah.
In what amount of time did he have to go search up where she lived?
So that's something I realized as well. And I think in that scene, I think Stillwell, when she apologized, she's like, "Oh my God, I'm sorry, Homelander. I didn't mean to like deceive you." I think she didn't know either. I think the doctor deceived her too, to like clear up all loose ends. And so, when he goes to the doctor and he's like, the doctor's like, "You're my worst like mistake ever." I think they cut a scene out on purpose that we didn't see where Homelander figures it all out. I think he kills the doctor there. He's like, I had to squeeze the information from him. I think we didn't see that sequence on purpose.
Okay.
And I think maybe in the next season we'll get a flashback to that, which will help clarify it. But I like that Billy sees that his wife and not son and her son with Homelander is a thing, because I think that's a hell worse than him knowing that she's dead. It's giving him literally hell, and it's the most like diabolical shit Homelander could do to him.
Yeah, like he could just let him, die in the house with the lady and unfortunately the baby, which I'm still holding out hope that he saved the baby.
Yeah, and speaking of the baby, I don't remember that they ever mentioned who the father of that child was, but I thought before they kind of, lied and said that, like, Homelander's original, like, story child was, like, killed and caused Butcher's wife to, die through, like, a stillbirth or whatever. But I was under the impression that maybe that child was Homelander's, but then that wouldn't necessarily make sense, because if he was deceived, then he could have been like, well, this is my child. Like,
exactly.
Why isn't this one? Why aren't you dead now? So I'm wondering if there is going to be any, or if it's even important if the child is still alive, whether like that its father is going to be revealed or not.
I think it would be interesting, and I think it will be revealed. I think, yeah, it could be, because she has such a handle on all these superheroes, or she thinks she has a handle on all these superheroes, or she has something over them. But Homelander's just so manipulative and such a monster that he's like, he realizes that she knows stuff about him, and he's like, okay, I have to get rid of her. It reminded me a little about the TV show Barry, where Barry's like, instead of like you being scared that Barry's gonna die the whole show, it's like, oh shit, how's Barry gonna dispatch this problem? And that's kind of like how Homelander is. Homelander sees a problem, he's like, how do I get rid of the problem? And, yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I thought the show also had really good moments of levity. Like the scene where they're talking to Translucent, and he's like, how far did you stick it up my ass? And Frenchie's like, well, how far down does your tongue go? And that line is just such clever dialogue and writing. Like those moments, or when Huey's like, okay, that was a weird thing. And he's like, I'd prefer not to see more people like killed. And like the way Huey is so real and like well realized as just a normal kid who's essentially been taken in by the boys and has been turned into like an assassin. I really like that dynamic where like Huey's kind of this reluctant dude the whole time, but he's never whiny.
No.
Right. And he walks that line every now and then of like, is he gonna kind of fall into like the dark pit that has control of Butcher at the moment, but he does like kind of keep his humanity about him still, and we'll see if that continues throughout or through into next season, assuming that they're going to renew it.
They have renewed it. It's already filming.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, all right.
think that the way, if he loses humanity, it will either be if Simon Pegg dies or if something happens to Starlight. Because they already gave the little tip that he's her weakness.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, she's his weakness.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah, I do agree with the Starlight thing as well. And I hope they do the plot point or the storyline where Huey injects himself with Compound V to give himself powers. Because that's kind of a thing in the comics they touch on more. And they may just do that in the second season, but they may avoid it altogether. I have no idea. But I'm really interested to see what they do in the show because I know how the comic pans out. And I don't want to say too much because if I predict it right, I've just spoiled the entire show for everybody. Because there's like big things that happen. I'm just saying the little plot points. Like, I know how the entire thing ends. And I really, I hope they do it because it would be a real gut punch to everybody if they do it. And I think it would be one of those like, oh my God, they just did that. Like, holy shit. It's kind of like, you know, when Game of Thrones was ending, we all predicted the end. Even though we didn't know the end of the books. In this, like, you can look up the end, and you're like, holy shit, if they do this on TV, they've done something no other show has dared to do. And this, anyone can look up the end. Like, you can Google it now if you're interested in this show and interested in watching it, because these books have been out forever. There's like 70 or 80 issues. But yeah, I'm very intrigued, and I'm very excited for the next season. And this is one of those shows that benefits from binging.
Yeah.
I wish we could have had more Haley Joel Osment, though.
I fucking love that character so much.
There were so many cameos I didn't expect, like Jimmy Fallon, Reed.
Yeah, Seth Rogen. Well, Seth Rogen's a producer on this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, the Haley Joel Osment character, I totally forgot about that. The way he gets offed is so brutal. Like, you're just like, oh my God. Like, that's one of those, like, your head is in your hands. You're like, oh, what did I just watch? But I think his power is really cool. And they're definitely making fun of Haley Joel Osment as a person for being a child star and kind of riding off of that. And I really like that character.
Kind of like how they kind of gave him, like, it's like his Sixth Sense character. Like, I see dead people, I can see the future.
Exactly, yeah. I think that was a perfect casting. Another thing, the casting in the show is perfect.
I want to see more, like, supers that have been kind of cast off. Like, I want to see how far, like, Compound V, like, or what the different kind of powers that Compound V can give other people, and whether they were successful or whether they were just, you know, like, bums that, you know, couldn't make it in the industry.
Yeah, like the girlfriend who has the claws in her hands.
Yeah.
I thought her storyline was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Where the one time A-Train's kind of right is like, you know, she could have been alive if you guys didn't try to fuck with this plan. And I know, like, the boys were doing the right thing ultimately, but it does take a few eggs to make an omelet kind of thing. And that's sort of what that is, where it's like, ultimately A-Train did kill her, but it's like she got tied up in this horrible, horrible thing. Yeah.
Well, going back to, Ben, your point about what different types of superpowers people can get, because the little baby shoots lasers out of its eyes, are they just recycling the powers? But his eyes are blue, and Homelander's is red. So unless there's something else that comes with the blue rays, are they just recreating the same...
Yeah.
After a while, like, what other superpowers are there?
And they also can cause mutations that we learn from the Deep. Physical mutations. Because he has gills.
Yeah. That was weird.
Great makeup.
Oh, yeah, great visual effects.
But just weird all over.
I thought that was a really interesting kind of just dessert for that character where he gets sexually assaulted by a fan. And he kind of gets his comeuppance, and it's really, really kind of twisted. And that was one of those scenes where you're like, oh my God. Like, you feel for such a piece of shit, dirtbag kind of guy, and you're like, oh God, what is this? Is kind of like the feeling you get from watching that.
And then I'm sure we're going to see more super villains than other than just Naquib.
Yeah.
At the last season, I'm sure that Vought has manufactured more supervillains, like probably to go off of each individual of the 7 that are left, like off of their strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, to create an anti-version.
Yeah.
I did like the plot twist with that one, though.
That Homelander did that one?
Yeah, and then I think the woman I think she just went along with it. Like, she was surprised that he did it. Like, she had no idea.
But she, like, had a feeling. Like, she's like, the other supervillains, but she's like, oh, shit, Homelander did it. Like, because she's only in charge of, like, their social media appearance and stuff, because the guy upstairs is the one who's really pulling strings. Yeah. And I think he's going to be the main bad guy. Kind of like Gus in Breaking Bad. I think he's going to be the ultimate evil of the show. He's kind of like the Emperor where Homelander's Darth Vader. But yeah, I'm really glad you guys enjoyed it. I was a little worried when I told you guys to watch it for the show, or like recommended that you guys watch it for the show. I was a little worried one of the two of you was going to be like, fuck this. This is the weirdest, most off-putting shit ever. And which would have made an interesting conversation, but also would have been like, this is the first time this has ever happened where one of us ultimately hates it. But yeah.
We'll hit that point at some time. Like,
oh, yeah.
It's just, we can't all possibly like the exact same things like over and over.
Oh, I think it's going to be sooner rather than later. Something's going to come out and you guys are going to love it. I'm going to be like, I fucking hate this. This is the worst. This sucks. Speaking of that, I didn't like the 3rd season of Stranger Things. We can argue about that one later.
I liked parts of it.
I thought it was better than the 2nd season.
Yeah.
But still not as, I mean, the 1st season was very, very good.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, I think definitely good. Do you guys have any recommendations for next week? Or do you have any recommendations for the show, for what we could do, and any for the audience besides watching The Boys?
Gonna have to get back to you on the show recommendations. As far as plugs or anything the audience should do, I got nothing. Well, actually, here's a different one. I've been reading a book. Imagine that. It's called Wanderers by Chuck Wendig. It's a very, very large book. But yeah, I would highly recommend that. I'm about halfway through it now. It's super, super good so far. Just a quick little synopsis of it. Pretty much the point is people just begin to, like, in a way, sleepwalk towards an unknown destination. And that the amount of people that are sleepwalking causes kind of the rest of the country to lose their fucking minds, and so the world just kind of, or America just kind of goes into chaos, trying to figure out why they're doing this and like what to do about it.
Okay.
So it's really good so far.
I like it. Ariana?
I have a movie. I will admit, it's a documentary that I haven't actually finished watching it, but so far it's good. It's The Making of Pixar on Netflix.
I've watched it, yeah.
It goes for like the whole behind the scenes of how it started with John, I think the last name is Lasseter.
Is it John the Hand Lasseter?
Yeah. How he, started out at Pixar and what he did for everything, and then how it became this major thing today.
Yeah. No, it is a good watch. Good recommendation. And then mine is, it's also a book. Shit. It's called The Sculptor. Yeah, it's a graphic novel. It's called The Sculptor. It's a really quick read, and it will make you cry. And it's fantastic. I do recommend that you can get it on Comixology. You can probably get it on Amazon for like $10. And I'm sure you can find like a pirated version online. Not that I do recommend like pirating any form of art, but guys, libraries do exist. If you're in college, check it out. I'm sure colleges have it. They're turning it into a movie. I think Sony has the rights to it, so let's hope they don't fuck it up. But I think The Sculptor would be really cool as like a one-off miniseries, like 10 episodes. I think it would do better as that just because of what it's about. I can't say any more because it'll spoil like the conceit of the book, but I recommend it. It is supernatural, but it's very down to earth, supernatural. It has to do with superpowers, but no superheroes. It's like if you were given a power, how would you, as a normal person, realistically use it if that power had a drawback as well? It's very interesting and very it's a very real story that I think a lot of people can relate to. And yeah, it's fantastic. I really, really do recommend it. Those are recommendations. Can you guys in our group chat text me the name and the best place to find yours so I can type them in the description? I know I'm putting that in the podcast. I'm not editing any of this out. But yeah, is there anything you guys want to say before we go?
I'm good.
Good to hear.
Okay, I'm signing off for this week. Which one of you guys wants to close out?
I go with Ben.
I can do it. All right. For Russell and Ariana, thank you guys so much for listening. As always, we hope to catch you next week. This has been Nothing and Everything. We still don't have a tagline for the show. We'll figure that one sometime. Good night, everybody.